There are moments in deep space when silence becomes something else. Not absence, not calm, but presence. A presence that watches, waits, and chooses the right second to make itself known. Cael Draven had traveled long enough between stars to understand that space was never truly empty. It held echoes, remnants, things forgotten, and things waiting to be discovered. Still, nothing in his years as a navigator, trader, or reluctant wanderer had prepared him for the sound that broke the stillness aboard the Vortex 9 that night. It did not begin with warning lights. It did not come from sensors or from any rational source. It began as a whisper. The first signal Cael perceived didn't flash across a console or ring from the ship's alert system. It reached him like a breath drawn too close, a faint vibration threading through the metal floor and crawling upward into his spine. He froze mid-motion, one hand hovering over a stack of trade route calculations. The air in the bridge felt different, charged, almost expectant. Cael straightened slowly, listening. Nothing. Or rather, nothing his ears could interpret. But the vibration remained, subtle yet deliberate, as if the ship itself were murmuring to him. He exhaled through his nose, steady but uneasy. Not possible, he whispered to no one. The Vortex 9 had survived a decade of rough sectors, asteroid currents, and hastily patched repairs. It wasn't a sentient vessel, wasn't linked to any neural network, and certainly wasn't capable of whispering. And yet, the star map flickered. Cael turned sharply toward the main navigation display. A ripple passed across it, smooth, organic, nothing like the usual glitchy jumps caused by damaged circuits. It looked, disturbingly, like the map had inhaled and exhaled. Then something changed. A single point of light bloomed in the corner of the stellar web, glowing faintly. Cael blinked, assuming it was a glitch, but when the point pulsed again, steady and unmistakably intentional, the breath caught in his throat. He expanded the view. The point remained. A coordinate, precise, silent, waiting. It hadn't been there a second earlier, and according to the ship's database, it had never existed. No record, no classification, no remnants of deleted data, nothing. It was as if the universe had written a new location into existence right in front of him. Cael stared at the coordinate, feeling something he had not felt in years, not during failed negotiations, not during encounters with pirate raiders, not even during that near-fatal drift in the Archeon Nebula. He felt unease, a deep, instinctive kind of tension that whispered of something ancient and deliberate. The universe rarely offered mysteries for free, and when it did, they usually demanded a price. For a moment, the bridge was utterly still. The only sound was the faint hum of the ship's aging reactors, but Cael could swear he felt that whisper again. Fainter now, receding, like a secret retreating into darkness after being noticed. He leaned closer to the map. The new point didn't move, didn't flicker, just pulsed softly, calling to him. Not an accident, not a malfunction, a message. The kind meant for someone who knew how to read between the stars. Cael Draven had seen many strange things in the void, but nothing like a coordinate that appeared out of nowhere and responded to his attention as if it recognized him. He swallowed hard. Whatever this was, it wasn't random, and it definitely wasn't harmless. But mysteries like this didn't happen twice, and once the universe opened a door, it rarely opened it again. Cael straightened his shoulders, the faint whisper still tingling at the edge of his perception. "All right," he murmured. "Let's see who's calling."
The coordinate pulsed again, slow, steady, patient, almost as if it knew Cael Draven was still watching. He leaned closer to the navigation console, fingers hovering over the holographic controls but not quite touching them. He wasn't sure why he hesitated. Maybe it was instinct, maybe caution, or maybe, deep down, he sensed that interacting with the anomaly would change more than just his flight path. Still, curiosity had always been both his compass and his curse. Cael magnified the coordinate. The map responded instantly. A sphere of data unfolded around the new point, but unlike normal stellar entries, this one contained nothing. No atmosphere readings, no gravitational fields, no temperature markers, no travel logs. Not even the faint cosmic residue usually detected in unexplored sectors. It wasn't simply unknown, it was untouched. Impossible, he muttered. Every corner of human space, even the forgotten edges, contained at least residual data left by drifting probes, abandoned beacons, or generations of sensor sweeps. For a coordinate to be truly empty, it meant no one had ever been there. Or someone had erased all traces on purpose. Cael's pulse quickened. He typed a query into the system requesting historical overlays. The screen divided into layers, one for Federation records, one for independent charts, one for ancient archives predating the Expansion War. Each one rendered completely. Each one showed the same thing, a blank space, a perfect void where the new coordinate now glowed. The universe had rules Cael relied on, rules that kept navigation predictable, and one of those rules was simple. Space does not just create new locations. So how had this point appeared now? Why here? Why on his map? A question formed in the back of his mind, one he didn't want to say aloud. Had something activated it? Cael swallowed, struggling to shake the thought. The hum of the ship now felt louder, deeper, resonating through the soles of his boots. The whisper he'd felt earlier no longer seemed like some fleeting hallucination. It felt intentional, a signal, a nudge, a quiet invitation from some place that had patiently waited to be found. He ran a diagnostic on the Vortice 9's internal systems. Everything came back normal. No malfunctions, no foreign interference, no corrupted logs. But as the test concluded, the coordinate flared, bright enough to cast a faint blue glow across Cael's face. It was responding. Not to the ship, to him. Cael stepped back, suddenly cold. "Who are you?" he whispered to the point of light. It didn't answer. It only pulsed, slowly, reassuringly, almost gently. But Cael knew better than to mistake the unknown for harmless. He had traveled through derelict zones where the silence felt like a trap. He had seen planets stripped bare by corporations chasing resources they never should have touched. He had stood at the edge of nebulae that swallowed entire fleets without leaving a single shard of wreckage. The universe was a graveyard of mysteries. This one simply happened to glow. And yet, despite every warning whisper inside him, Cael couldn't look away. For the first time in years, something stirred deep within him, deeper than fear, deeper than curiosity. Recognition. Not of the coordinate itself, but of the feeling it brought. A sense of being chosen, summoned, pulled into a story that began long before he was born. He exhaled, voice barely a breath. "All right, let's see why you're here." His fingers hovered above the console one last time, knowing full well that once he acknowledged the coordinate, truly acknowledged it, there would be no turning back. And still, he pressed the command. The map zoomed out. Star lines rearranged themselves. Paths he had never seen before unfolded like strands of light, weaving toward that impossible point. It wasn't simply a location, It was a destination, and whatever waited there had been waiting a very, very long time.
The Vortex 9 emerged from the jump with a shudder that rattled every bolt in its aging hull. Cael braced himself against the console as reality settled back into place, slowly, reluctantly, like a curtain being drawn after a long performance. What he saw outside the viewport didn't belong to any performance. It didn't belong to any charted region either. Space looked altered. A crimson haze drifted across the void, shifting and folding as if stirred by a cosmic breath. It wasn't nebula gas, not the kind Cael had ever seen. It moved with too much intention, its currents bending around the ship like it sensed their arrival. Cael's heartbeat kicked into a faster rhythm. "Easy," he muttered to the ship, though he wasn't entirely sure the words were meant for the Vortex 9 or himself. He activated the external scanners. Static. More static. Then faint readings, so faint they looked like ghosts on the display. But as the sensors stabilized, the system revealed itself. First came the stars, dim, pale, like their light had been drained. Then the planets, 3 of them, each orbiting in unnatural stillness, like marbles suspended in dark water. And in the center of it all, Cael's breath caught. A monolith. A floating, jagged mass of stone and metal, impossibly large, turning slowly as though the void itself bowed to its gravity. It wasn't shaped like a typical asteroid, no irregular curves or jagged breaks. Its faces were straight, smooth in some places, engineered. Not nature, not accident, architecture. A structure built in the middle of nowhere. Cael leaned closer to the viewport, eyes narrowing. What are you? The monolith seemed to absorb surrounding starlight, drinking it until its surface shone with a muted, almost liquid darkness. Strange markings traced one of its faces, symbols or carvings maybe, but they were too far to decipher. The ship's proximity alarm suddenly chimed. Soft, but insistent. Cael checked the readings. The structure was emitting a field, not hostile, not gravitational, a signal. It pulsed at precise intervals, like a slow, deliberate heartbeat. Cael swallowed. He recognized the rhythm instantly. It was the same frequency he had felt earlier, vibrating through the floor of the Vortex 9 like a whisper. So this was what had called him. But why? He initiated a slow approach, engines humming in low resonance as the ship drifted closer. The nearer he came, the clearer the carvings became. Lines and spirals etched into stone, smooth patterns that looked unnervingly similar to navigation scripts. It was a map, or part of one. No, not just a map, a gateway. The monolith wasn't simply floating, it was waiting. And he felt it, not with logic, not with sensors, but with something older and deeper. A sense that the empty spaces between stars had been holding their breath for centuries and had finally exhaled when he arrived. The scanners beeped again, this time detecting a composition unlike any natural material. Metallic crystals embedded within the rock, pulses of electromagnetic signatures too organized to be geological, crafted, designed, placed here by someone who understood how to hide an entire system in plain sight. Cael tightened his grip on the controls as a strange weight settled in his chest. The coordinate wasn't a destination. It was a summons. And the monolith was the threshold. the beginning of a truth buried far beyond the reach of human maps. He exhaled slowly, a whisper escaping him before he realized the words had formed. It wanted me to see this. The monolith's pulse answered, faint but unmistakably alive. And Cael Draven knew, without understanding how, that this was only the first piece of a story the universe had worked very hard to erase.
The Vortice 9 hovered near the monolith like a lone speck of dust beside a sleeping giant. Cael activated the probe deployment system, watching from the bridge, as a small reconnaissance drone detached from the hall and drifted toward the structure. The drone's lights flickered against the monolith's surface, revealing textures that looked less like natural stone and more like the skin of some ancient machine. "Easy," Cael murmured. The drone extended a sampling arm. A thin beam scanned the surface before cutting out a fragment no larger than a pebble. The second the tool made contact, the ship shuddered. Lights dimmed, screens pulsed, and for a heartbeat, the Vortice 9 seemed to tremble. The drone withdrew, carrying the fragment inside its containment module. Cael's eyes narrowed as the monolith's pulse slowed, as if reacting to the loss, almost like pain. The drone docked, and Cael made his way to the onboard analysis bay. The doors hissed open, revealing sterile metal, soft lighting, and the fragment resting inside a transparent chamber. At first glance, it looked like crystal, dark, glassy, but shifting. Not reflecting light, refracting it inward, like it was drinking the brightness around it. Cael leaned closer. The fragment pulsed. A faint rhythm, like a heartbeat, like the monolith itself. "What are you?" he whispered. The scanners began their sweep. The readouts blinked chaotically as the computers struggled to classify what they were measuring. Composition, unknown. Density, inconsistent. Temperature, variable. Energy signature, non-standard. Patterned. Cael's brow furrowed. Energy patterns meant intention, design, purpose. The pulse grew stronger. And then, a flash. Cael staggered as a burst of light erupted inside the chamber, not bright, but overwhelming in another way. It bypassed his eyes entirely and struck directly inside his mind. He wasn't in the ship anymore. He was standing in a city of towers made of the same dark crystal, glowing veins of light running through the structures like living circuitry. People moved through the streets, humans, unmistakably human, but dressed in a style he had never seen. Sleek, minimal, functional. Their eyes held a familiarity he couldn't explain. Then the city shifted. Buildings cracked, light dimmed. Shadows stretched across the world like advancing storms. A symbol appeared, circular, ancient, etched with lines that rotated like a celestial compass. It grew brighter, louder. He felt it speak. But just as the message reached its peak, everything shattered. Cael gasped, stumbling backward into the analysis console. The lights flickered and steadied. The fragment pulsed softly, innocently, as though it hadn't just forced visions into his mind. Cael pressed a hand to his temple, breath shaking. "What did you show me?" He replayed the sensation, the clarity of the images, the precision. That wasn't imagination. It wasn't projection. It felt like memory. Not his, not human in origin, but carried inside the mineral like a message in a bottle drifting through time. A mineral that stored memories, encoded them, preserved them across centuries. Who created such a thing? And why hide it here in a star system erased from every chart? The fragment pulsed again. One slow, steady beat. A heartbeat. Or a call. Cael Draven stood frozen, the truth settling over him like frost. The monolith wasn't just a structure. It was a vault, a library, a witness. And the fragment in front of him was just the first page. Whatever civilization built this, it wanted to be remembered. And if it chosen him as the one to finally see.
Cael remained in the analysis bay long after the mineral's glow faded. The hum of the Vortis 9 surrounded him, a familiar, aging sound he had grown to trust. But now it felt distant, swallowed by the echo of what he'd just witnessed. A city that no longer existed. People who had lived and died long before humans ever charted this region. A symbol that felt like a warning or a prophecy. He exhaled slowly, forcing his heartbeat down. The fragment inside the containment chamber pulsed again. Not bright, just aware. Cael stepped closer, careful, as though approaching a sleeping animal. That wasn't just data. It was memory. Someone's memory. And memories require a mind. His skin prickled. Before he could say another word, the lights in the bay dimmed. Not a power failure, an intentional shift in tone, subtle but perceptible. The air thickened with static. Then he heard it, a faint sound. Not metal, not machinery, a voice. It wasn't spoken aloud, not through speakers, not through vibrations. It rose directly inside his thoughts, soft, disjointed, layered with tones that made it impossible to guess if it came from one person or from thousands whispering at once. A sound like a memory remembering itself. Lost. Cael's breath hitched. Who was that? Silence. Then, buried, hidden, find. The word find struck like an electric shock, sharp and intentional. Cael staggered backward, grabbing the edge of a console to steady himself. His mind raced. This wasn't telepathy. This wasn't any known psychic phenomenon. This was communication. The mineral translating stored mental impressions into something his mind could understand. The fragment pulsed again, as if acknowledging the connection. Suddenly, a flood of images rushed into him. Hands carving symbols into stone, stars collapsing into spirals, a chamber filled with crystalline maps, voices arguing, desperate, afraid, light shattering, silence swallowing everything. Cael gasped and shut his eyes, forcing the visions to stop. When he opened them again, sweat clung to his brow. The fragment's glow softened. Not threatening, not hostile, lonely. Cael swallowed hard. The recognition hit him with quiet certainty. This wasn't just a piece of a machine or relic. It was an entire civilization, its thoughts, its fears, its last attempts to be heard. The voices he heard weren't ghosts. They were records of real people encoded into the mineral as their world fell apart. He touched the glass chamber gently with trembling fingers. What happened to you? The pulse answered, not with images this time, but with a single, heavy impression. Erased. A chill crept through Cael's spine. Erased. Not destroyed, erased. Meaning someone wanted them gone. Meaning someone or something was powerful enough to wipe out not just a homeworld, but every trace of its existence. Cael backed away from the chamber, heart pounding. Who could have done that? Why hide this system? Why bury memories inside minerals scattered across a forgotten monolith? And perhaps the question he feared most, why reveal it to him? Before he could think further, the navigation console on the wall beeped sharply. Cael turned as a new alert flashed on the map. Another coordinate was appearing, emerging slowly like ink rising through water. Another point that had never existed until now. The voices weren't finished. The memories weren't done. They were guiding him. Cael stared at the new coordinate, dread and fascination tangling inside his chest. "All right," he whispered into the quiet room. "I'm listening." And from the mineral chamber, the faintest pulse answered, like a heartbeat, like gratitude, like the beginning of something vast.
Cael Draven stood motionless in front of the navigation display, the newly revealed coordinate glowing with a quiet certainty that made his stomach tighten. 2 coordinates now, both emerging only after he interacted with the mineral. Both perfectly aligned along a trajectory that hadn't existed before his arrival. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was design. The whispering impressions still echoed faintly in the back of his mind. Lost, hidden, find. Each word etched with the weight of an entire civilization's dying breath. Cael rubbed his temples, trying to steady himself. He needed clarity, logic, a framework to place these impossible events into. And then he remembered. A story he had once heard in a bar on the Lorne Expanse. Nothing more than a rumor carried by old pilots with too many jumps behind them and too little hope ahead. A myth whispered by navigators when the sky felt too large to trust. The last star map. He hadn't thought about it in years, mostly because he'd never believed it. According to the legend, long before the Federation had cataloged the major sectors, before colonial nations had drawn borders across the void, there had been an attempt, quiet, unofficial, and desperately secret, to chart the entire reachable universe. Not for expansion, not for conquest, for preservation. The story claimed that a team of cartographers, historians, and star engineers had created a master map that contained every known star and every hidden one, every ancient route long since buried, every civilization rise and fall, every secret corridor of space discovered and immediately erased from public records. But the map hadn't been designed for navigation. It had been designed as a record, a truth too large, too powerful, and too dangerous to be held by any government or empire. And so, as the legend went, it had been destroyed. Or so people believed. Cael stared at the pulsing mineral, the echo of the ancient voices vibrating in his memory. Destroyed? No. Judging by the fragment in front of him, hidden. Hidden in pieces, encoded inside indestructible mineral and scattered across places no one could accidentally stumble into, protected by systems erased from human charts. He swallowed. If the stories were true, the last star map wasn't just a record. It was a confession of every secret humanity had ever buried about its origins among the stars. And if someone had gone to such lengths to hide it, someone else must have desperately wanted it found. Cael stepped back as the chamber lights flickered. The mineral pulsed once, sharp, purposeful, not like a heartbeat this time, but like an answer. "Is that what you are?" Cael whispered. "A piece of the map? A memory of a world erased?" A faint hum filled the room, subtle but undeniable. The ship itself almost seemed to breathe with the mineral. He didn't need more confirmation. The visions, the voices, the coordinates weren't random fragments of a dead civilization. They were parts of a greater whole, pieces of a puzzle that had taken centuries to surface, and Cael had just become part of its unfolding. But as reality settled around him, so did an uneasy truth. If the last star map had truly survived, then others might be searching for it too. Corporations hungry for power, governments desperate for control, collectors who bought secrets like trophies, people who wouldn't care whose memories they trampled to get what they wanted. Cael's jaw clenched. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a historian. He was just a man with a ship barely held together and debts that could drown him. But he wasn't naive either. Finding the last star map would change everything: politics, borders, power, history itself. Whoever held it would hold the truth, and the truth was the most dangerous commodity in the universe. He gazed at the new coordinate glowing steadily on the map. Another destination, another piece waiting to be uncovered. The kind of thing people killed for, the kind of thing people died protecting. Cael's voice dropped to a whisper. "All right, if you're the map they tried to erase, then I'll follow your trail." The mineral pulsed again, this time bright enough to cast shadows across the room. And Cael felt something he hadn't felt since the whisper first touched him, the sense that he was no longer alone. The second coordinate glowed on the navigation map like an ember refusing to die. Cael Draven stared at it in silence, the soft pulses of the mineral echoing faintly behind him in the analysis bay. One coordinate had been a mystery. Two was a pattern, a trail, a deliberate sequence. The voices hadn't simply shown him memories. They were guiding him, tugging him along a chain of forgotten places that someone, long ago, had buried in the dark. Cael leaned closer to the map. The new point sat far beyond the reach of ordinary trade routes, beyond the safe corridors ships used to avoid gravitational anomalies and radiation fields. It was tucked between two star systems that were considered dead. Systems with collapsed suns, unstable debris rings, and no reason for anyone to ever travel there, which made it perfect for hiding something. He exhaled slowly. Whoever did this didn't want to be found, but they also didn't want to be forgotten. The mineral pulsed again, responding like it understood the thought. Cael keyed in the long-range scans. The Vortice 9's aged sensors hummed, struggling to pierce the dark space around the coordinate. Data trickled in, thin, fragmented, as if the universe itself resisted giving answers. Then the screen flickered. A structure appeared. Just for a second, a faint silhouette drowned in static. Cael froze. It hadn't been a natural formation. The lines were too clean, too symmetrical, too deliberate. Another monolith? The screen refreshed. Static. Blackness. Nothing. The ghost of the structure lingered in Cael's mind like an afterimage burned into his vision. He replayed the scan frame by frame, but the structure didn't reappear. Whatever it was, the system did not want him to see it yet. He rubbed a hand over his jaw. The pieces were coming together. A hidden star system erased from every map. A monolith containing a mineral that held memories. Voices guiding him to a second location. A structure that vanished as soon as it appeared. If this was truly the path to the last star map, Then someone, long ago, had built multiple vaults, multiple fragments, multiple memories waiting to be reassembled. But there was something else, something that made Cael uneasy. The more he interacted with the mineral, the more coordinates appeared. What if the map wasn't just revealing locations? What if it was a weakening? He glanced back toward the analysis bay. The mineral pulsed dimly like a heartbeat at rest. He felt it then, a quiet awareness, like eyes watching him from behind the stone. Not threatening, not invasive, just present. Cael cleared his throat. All right, you want me to go there? I'll go. But as he touched the navigation panel to start plotting a course, the ship's lighting flickered. A cold ripple moved through the hull, followed by the unmistakable sound of static crawling through the comm lines. A voice, faint, far away. Return. Not safe. Return. Cael stiffened. It wasn't like the earlier whispers. This voice wasn't coming from the mineral. It was coming from the system. The speakers crackled again. Do not follow. Do not. The transmission cut sharply. Silence. Cael stared at the comm panel, heart pounding. There were no ships nearby, no stations, no satellites, nothing that could have broadcast a signal. Yet something out there, something that shouldn't exist, was warning him or threatening him. He swallowed hard. If someone had gone to such extreme lengths to erase the last star map, then surely someone or something was still guarding the pieces. The second coordinate dimmed, then brightened again, as if urging him onward, pushing him through the fear. Cael clenched his jaw. Whoever you are, he whispered to the unseen force in the darkness, I'm not turning back. The mineral pulsed with a soft, approving glow. The warning voice did not return. And so Cael Draven set a course toward the second coordinate, toward another buried secret, toward another piece of the truth the universe had tried to silence, toward whatever waited for him in a starless corner of forgotten space. The trail had been lit.
The journey to the second coordinate was tense, silent, and strangely heavy. Cael Draven had crossed dangerous space before. Ion storms, pirate territories, gravity wells that swallowed signals whole. But nothing compared to the oppressive stillness that wrapped itself around the Vortis 9 as it drifted into the uncharted corridor. The stars here seemed dimmer, colder, as if they were watching him instead of illuminating his path. Hours passed before the ship finally crossed into the region indicated by the coordinate. But instead of a planet, or a station, or even another monolith, Cael found something far stranger. The system was dead. A collapsed star loomed at the center, its remnants swirling in a slow, mournful spiral. Debris fields drifted like frozen tides, and streaks of radiation shimmered through the void like ghostly ribbons. Nothing lived here. Nothing should have been preserved here. And yet, the scanners detected a structure, hidden beneath the wreckage of a shattered moon. Cael's heart quickened. He guided the ship closer, engines humming low against the gravitational currents. As the debris parted, a massive formation emerged, half buried, half exposed, carved with geometric precision that did not belong to nature. It was indeed another vault, larger than the monolith from the first system, older, worn by forces that tried and failed to erase it. Cael stared at the impossible structure, dread tingling beneath his skin. Something destroyed this system, but not this. Why? He landed the Vortis 9 on one of the few intact surfaces of the broken moon and stepped out into a cavern carved directly into the stone. His helmet light traced symbols etched into the walls, spirals, lines, star configurations that matched those from the memory crystal. This wasn't merely a vault. It was a record chamber, a place built to store truths too large for any single memory. As he moved deeper, a faint resonance filled the air. A low hum vibrated through the cavern floor, guiding him toward a circular chamber at the heart of the structure. And there, floating above a pedestal, was another crystal. Larger than the first, shaped almost like an eye. It pulsed at his arrival, not softly, not cautiously, expectantly. Cael stepped forward. "You were waiting for someone." The pulse grew brighter as though acknowledging him. He reached out, and the second his glove brushed the crystal's surface, a tidal wave of visions crashed over him. He was no longer Cael Draven. He was everywhere at once, watcher, witness, collector of centuries forgotten. He saw worlds rising in a golden age of exploration, engineers constructing crystalline libraries capable of storing consciousness, a council debating the morality of preserving history that could fracture civilizations, the decision to hide the map, piece by piece, system by system, the fear that knowledge could destroy entire empires, the sorrow of abandoning their own legacy, the sound of something approaching, something vast, mechanical, merciless, a blinding explosion, the collapse of suns, silence swallowing everything. Cael collapsed to his knees as the vision tore away, leaving him gasping for air inside his helmet. The vault became quiet. The hum faded. The crystal now dimmed. It had given him everything it could, and in doing so, exhausted the last of its energy. Cael tried to steady his breath, hands shaking. He finally understood. This wasn't just a civilization that had died. It was one that had been hunted. Something had erased them. Something powerful enough to collapse entire systems, destroy records, and chase down knowledge across the stars. And the last star map, their final lifeline, had been hidden so completely that even their destroyers never found it. Until now. Cael rose slowly, heart pounding. "If whatever destroyed you is still out there," he whispered. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Because deep inside the cavern, behind the fading echoes of ancient voices, another realization struck him. They hadn't just hidden the map. They'd left instructions on how to finish it. And Cael Draven was now following that path. But he wasn't alone. The hum returned, this time from the shadows behind him. A sound not made by the crystal, not ancient, new, mechanical, alive. Cael turned slowly. Something tall and metallic stood at the far end of the chamber, its body smooth and seamless, shaped like a sentinel carved from living steel. Its eyes glowed with the same crystalline blue as the fragments. A guardian, left behind to protect the vault's secrets. Left behind, waiting. And now, it had awakened.
The guardian stood motionless in the dim cavern, its metallic form reflecting the faint blue glow of the dying crystal. For a moment, Cael Draven couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The silence between them felt like the space between heartbeats, thin, fragile, waiting to break. The sentinel did not advance. It simply watched him. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, shimmered with the same soft luminescence that pulsed through the crystalline structures of the vaults. That connection, that shared glow, told Cael exactly what it was. A protector, a remnant of a civilization that refused to let its final truth die. And now, awakened by Cael's interaction with the crystal, it had a purpose. For a long moment, neither of them moved.
The air hummed with ancient machinery powering up after countless years of stillness. Dust fell in faint streams from the vaulted ceiling, stirred by vibrations too subtle for Cael to detect consciously. Finally, the sentinel lifted its head, and then it spoke. Not in words, not in sound, but through the same mental resonance Cael had felt from the crystals. Choo. The impression struck him like a cold wind. The vault was not just a repository, it was a crossroads. Cael swallowed, his throat dry. Choose what? The sentinel stepped aside, revealing something hidden behind it, a pedestal forged from the same dark mineral as the monoliths. Upon it rested a disc, thin, etched with delicate patterns, shimmering faintly as though it were alive. Another piece of the map. But this one was different. This one had instructions. Memories surged through Cael's mind, not visions this time, but impulses, pathways, options. The ancient cartographers knew their world was dying. They knew their destroyer was relentless, so they'd created choices, multiple possible futures for whoever uncovered their legacy. Each option carried consequences that would ripple across civilizations. Cael felt them as the disk glowed. Option 1 revealed the full truth, the entire last star map released to humanity, knowledge that would shatter political borders, collapse economies, expose centuries of hidden history. It would spark an age of discovery or plunge the galaxy into chaos. Option 2, conceal the truth, hide the remaining fragments, erase the coordinates, bury the legacy again, protect civilization from destabilization, but ensure the ancient civilization's final message died completely. Option 3, release the truth slowly, intentionally, not as a weapon, not as a revelation, but as a controlled awakening, guided only by those willing to safeguard it. 3 options, 3 paths, and Cael Draven, a man with no rank, no political ties, no destiny, was being asked to choose for the galaxy. His heart thudded in his chest. "Why me?" he whispered. The sentinel's pulse intensified. "Seeker, listener, unbound, untethered, free of allegiance. Someone who could not be bought or manipulated because he belonged to no empire, no faction, no agenda. Someone who could be trusted." The weight of it pressed on Cael's shoulders like gravity thickening around him. He paced slowly through the chamber, thoughts racing. If he chose revelation, millions could die in wars sparked by the sudden shift in power. If he chose concealment, he would be killing an entire civilization a second time, completing the erasure their destroyer had started. If he chose the third path, he would become a guardian, a steward of a truth older than any known society. He paused in front of the disk. Its surface shimmered with dormant knowledge waiting for a decision to ignite it. He thought of the voices buried in the mineral, the fear in their final memories, their desperate need not to be forgotten. He thought of the voice that had warned him from the darkness, the one that tried to stop him from going further. Whatever force that erased the first civilization might not be gone. Revealing the map blindly could draw it back. His breath steadied. He knew what he had to do, not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't bear the thought of repeating their tragedy. He reached toward the disk. At once, the sentinel bowed its head, a gesture of recognition, respect, acceptance of his choice.
Cael's fingers hovered above the shimmering surface as he whispered, "I won't let your truth be lost, but neither will I let it destroy us." And with that, his hand made contact. The chamber erupted in light. Symbols raced across the walls. The vault awakened fully for the first time in millennia. The path had been chosen, and Cael Draven
was no longer just the seeker. He was now the keeper of a secret the universe had tried and failed to silence. Light surged through the vault like a storm of starlight awakening after centuries of sleep. The patterns on the walls glowed, racing from symbol to symbol in a spiraling cascade. Ancient machines hummed to life, their tones harmonizing into something that sounded almost grateful. Cael Draven staggered back as the disk absorbed his decision, its surface burning with shifting constellations. Information, vast, limitless, older than any known empire, flowed into the structure around him. The vault responded as though a long-awaited command had finally been spoken. The sentinel watched silently. It did not intervene. It did not move. It simply bore witness. When the surge finally dimmed, the chamber returned to stillness. But it was no longer the same kind of silence as before. The quiet now felt warm, a silence filled with purpose. The disk floated gently above the pedestal, changed. Not brighter, not louder, just certain, as though it now understood its place in history, and Cael's. He stepped forward, breath steadying. "What happens now?" he asked softly. The sentinel turned its head toward him. Its eyes glowed, not with threat, but with solemn recognition, and the resonance came again. "Guardian." Cael's chest tightened. "I'm not." He stopped himself. He wasn't a scholar. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't even a proper captain half the time. He was just a man trying to outrun debts and regrets. But the ancient civilization hadn't chosen a warrior or a leader. They had chosen someone who could listen, someone unbound, someone human enough to be humble and stubborn enough not to turn away. The sentinel extended an arm toward the disk. The message that followed wasn't linguistic. It wasn't even visual. It was direction. He felt it deep inside. This disk was only one fragment of a larger truth. More vaults existed. More memories waited. The last star map was still incomplete. And Cael Draven now carried the responsibility of finishing what an entire civilization had died trying to protect. "Why me?" he whispered again, softer this time, not of fear, but of acceptance. The sentinel pulsed a final time. "Because you chose." The chamber began to dim, the walls losing their glow. The vault was shutting down, its purpose fulfilled. The machines that had clung to existence for eons were returning to rest, confident that their message had finally found a bearer. Cael backed away as the air hummed with finality. He lifted the disk from the pedestal. It felt warm in his hands, as though alive. Part map, part memory, part key. A relic with a heartbeat. As he turned to leave, the sentinel lowered its head. A bow of farewell, a gesture of trust. Cael paused at the threshold. "I won't let your story die," he said. "I promise." The vault sealed behind him, locking its secrets away forever. Not hidden this time, preserved. Back aboard the Vortex 9, Cael placed the disk beside the first memory fragment. Both objects pulsed softly, synchronized, connected by threads of knowledge too complex for human understanding. He sat in the captain's chair and gazed at the star map. New paths glimmered faintly, paths only he could now see, forming a constellation of destinations waiting beyond the edges of known space. Not coordinates, not clues, a calling. Cael breathed deeply. No orders, no superiors, no empires dictating the consequences. Just him, and the truth he had chosen to protect. He set the engines to power. The hum rose beneath his feet, familiar and comforting. "Let's go," he murmured. "We have a map to finish." The Vortex 9 lifted from the moon's broken surface, engines flaring against the dead system's cold gravity. As the ship shot upward into the dark, the second vault went silent behind him, its duty done. But ahead, the unknown stretched open like a doorway, and Cael Draven, now the unwitting guardian of a forgotten civilization's last hope, flew toward a future shaped not by what the galaxy demanded of him, but by what he chose to carry: the truth, the legacy, the last star map. And the journey was only beginning.